I invite you to open your Bibles, please, to Joshua, the second chapter. Joshua, the second chapter. Preparing the people to go from the area of Shittim, as the Bible has it, has sometimes Abel Shittim. Shittim is connected with the plain of Moab, which is on the west side of the east side of the Jordan River. And this is where they're going to be leaving and go to the banks of the Jordan River. And they'll be passing over the Jordan River, and they'll be camping out and camping in the area of Gilgal, which is north of Jericho. So that's region, if you have your maps, and you can kind of see where we're heading this evening. But we got coming into the sending of the two spies. And they came into Jericho, and whose house did they stay in? Rahab the harlot. They laid there. She was a harlot. It was probably a place where if you were spies, no one would question, here comes two men, strangers, and they go to a harlot's house. That's where they were. They were laying up in the roof where she puts them, and eventually covering with the flax that is up there if they needed to, but that's where she hid them. And here, if you thought you were kind of outsmarting the king knew these men were spies. I want to bring out the two men that came into your camp, came into your house rather, and I want them, they're spying out the land. They're spies. How did he know that? This is supposed to be maybe a cover-up for two spies, but he knew that. And so now comes how does Rahab handle this particular incident? And we asked the question here in number 12, what was honorable about this harlot? So what she does, she hides, she protects, and she releases them. James, the second chapter, speaks about the fact that by works, this idea, her actions, was a part of being characteristic of being justified by faith. It wasn't that she was a harlot, but she sent the spies out another way. She received them, sent them out another way. Hebrews, the 11th chapter, says that by faith she was acting, that indeed she did not perish with the disobedient in Jericho, but she received the spies in peace. That's what's honorable about her in Scripture. But we kind of reached that and said, well, is this a great example that in difficulties, when you're trying to save people's lives, you can lie? You can tell stories, you can fabricate the facts that are there. And the point is, well, it must be when you're in war, you can do better than you want to. It's that gives you a carte blanche to well, I can lie. Bible doesn't commend her for lying. It commends her for her actions and sending the spies another way to protect them and as she received them. And let's just look in Joshua, the second chapter, and let's establish, did she lie? Because we're going into an area where we can say, well, here, you may have a point here. The woman took the two men and hid them. And she said, yea, the men came unto me. So the king's got her. Well, there's two men that came there. They came unto me, but I knew not whence they were. Is that right? Because immediately after she is involved in hiding them, she says in verse 6, and before they were laid down, see, they came in there and she hid them there. Now she lays them down under the flax up there on the roof. After that, they were laid down. She came unto them upon the roof and said unto them, I know that Jehovah has given you the land. She didn't know whence they were coming from. There could be any enemy coming from the Amorites on the eastern side of the Jordan River. That would be something that, here come, I think these may be spies. But she knew in her heart where they came from. And given you the land, and that the fear of you is fallen upon you, and that all inhabitants of the land melt away before you. That's what they know about God's people. Jehovah is with them. Verse 10, for we have heard how Jehovah dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came up out of Egypt. And what you did unto the kings of the Amorites, those are the two kings that were beyond the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. We knew about that. We heard about that. Where does faith come from? Hearing. And hearing by the word of God is how we get faith. Did she know by evidence that indeed God's going to give them the land? Did she know by evidence that Jehovah was behind the Israelites? What evidence did she have? We heard what you did to those Amorite kings. We heard how you came out of the Red Sea, miraculous. And she says in verse 11, and as soon as we had heard, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more spirit in any man because of you. For Jehovah, your God, he is a God in heaven above. Now where does it extend? On earth beneath. You're God of all. So I didn't know where they came from. Now, she may have been having twist things a little bit, but she know from whence they were. They were from Israel. They were indeed, Jehovah was behind them. And she's going to save her family and her life because she's not going to be destroyed by what's going to come upon Jericho. She won't be destroyed with the disobedient. There's the Jericho people. She'll be saved. Well, by faith, she did not perish. Not by, I'm a harlot, not because I'm a liar. God commends them. No, he commends their faith. That's all. And I want us to look at her from the standpoint, what was her background? What was she doing? She's selling her body. What morality does she have? At this point, all her morality would be, I want to survive. And she did that real well. From a worldly standpoint, she just wanted to survive, didn't she? I want my father's house. And it's going to be my father and my mother, my brothers and sisters, and everybody that belongs to them, she said. That was what she's putting down. I want them saved. And it ends up being that's exactly what takes place. What did it do? By faith. Not by lying, by faith. But from the standpoint of where she is in her life, what else would you think she would do? Anything she could to be involved in making sure she's going to survive. And therefore, this is very consistent. She knew where they were, but that's not all. I know not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate. You'd shut the gate at night to protect your city when it was dark, that the men went out. Whether the men went out, I know not. She knew where they were. Where were they? She'd already hid them on the roof. Verse 8, and before they were laid down, she came up upon them, up on the roof. She said, I think I'll go to the roof tonight and see something. She knew that's where they were. So pursue after them quickly, for ye will overtake them. No, they won't. You can pursue all you want, and they do. They can't find them, because where were they? Well, they were hidden that night. They'll be in the mountains, and they will stay there 3 days till the heat goes off and these people come back. And so we say, well, I can, since Rahab was justified by her faith and her works, I can lie in any situation. You have authority for that. All liars will be in hell. All fabricating. And what we do in a time of we're trying to save somebody, and you go to Rahab and say, well, she was justified by God. What was she justified by? What was it? Her faith, not her harlotry. We know that's an abomination before God. But it's perfect for the harlot where she is at that moment. She knows that just the understanding what's happened with the Israelites in the Red Sea, what they've done on the eastern side of the Jordan River, and those kings are demolished. And here comes these two men. She receives them. And she knew what was ahead. I'm going to protect my family. She did that. And because of the importance of oaths, because of God by faith, she didn't perish with them. That's all God is commending about her. What was honorable about this harlot? I say her faith, that she had I haven't seen this yet, but I have evidence that God, you will save me from my people, from the people that are going to be destroyed here. There's the evidence. She did. By faith, I just take a jump in the dark. I have no idea, but I think this route I'm going to go. I don't have any evidence that indeed I won't perish. That's not true. Faith is not a jump in the dark. And I don't know which I'm going. Abraham, that was by faith, but he was going to be guided by God where he's going. And you're trusting in God. And so faith doesn't mean it doesn't have evidence behind it. What's the evidence of the resurrection that God spent a lot of time developing so we can have faith in his resurrection? They just kind of go away after 40 days? After that, well, it's 40 days upon there. I'm hiding it. I don't want anybody to know anything, to give him any evidence that I've raised from the dead. What did he do the Sunday night? He came to his disciples, and he came and showed them prints of his nails, evidence. This is the bodies on that tree, on that cross. Now look at me. Don't fear. Don't fear. He appeared to many witnesses. There's an empty tomb. What's the evidence for that? We can go find bones. There's no bones in that tomb. They went and looked. They had an opportunity to disprove that every time they could. The enemies could. They just made up a lie to say what they're going to say. God gives us evidence for indeed put our trust in the Word of God, and he does that with his Bible. He does that in the Word of God, where you say, well, it's not scientifically accurate. It agrees with science. The problem is our theories of science may disagree with it. But life produces life. It doesn't come from nothing. Who started life? God. In him is life. And therefore it began. And we look how the minute parts of our bodies, how they heal, and how they're in order to make us healthy, all the things that happen. And do we look at the big scheme of things, the earth and all of the things in the vast universe, and realize up the stars, God says, as David, Psalm 8, I behold that, and I feel small. But God, I know you're behind all of that. And Paul said in Romans, the 2nd chapter, that where the people are if they do not see that, they are without excuse. God's given us evidence. We may ignore it. We may fight against it and try to justify a world without God, but it doesn't change the fact that there's truth. God gives us evidence for our faith. Why don't you look it out, how the Bible harmonizes with itself, how it can be written by all these different authors from all these centuries, and it portrays a single theme: salvation from our sins through Christ. From Genesis, the 3rd chapter, to the end of the book of Revelation. It's a united story. And who's the one that's the object of it all? How are you ever going to be on the right side of history and the right side of eternity? It's Jesus Christ. That's it. No other way. And there's evidence about him. Why did he come and do miracles and John didn't? John the Baptist didn't do any miracles. John announced that he was coming. Why did that happen? Because there's going to be a distinctiveness. John the Baptist is not the one to come. He's just the one heralding the ones that are coming. And who does the miracles? Jesus Christ. And he showed his power over nature. He showed his power over sickness. He showed his power over disease. And on the cross, he showed his power in his resurrection over sin. So our hearts can be united by faith in him. But here are people coming to a certain point in their life, and she's expressing the actions that are behind an obedient faith. And that's what she's committed for. Not her lying, not how clever she was. But she did send them out another way. The Bible does remember that about her in connection with works. She sent them out another way to protect them. She received them by peace, Hebrews 11:31. And there becomes that's what's honorable about her. And she becomes a noble part of of the history of Jesus Christ. Anything you want to add to that? Question number 11?
Jerry, to those that advocate situation ethics, use this as before proof text that whatever the situation is, you can alter it because you lie if it's going to help. Do they use that just as an example?
Yes, it's one. Yeah, and that you could do, like Dara Van Frank. She's Jewish people, and there's people keeping them in their attic and keeping them around. You could lie about that. And I thought, well, if I was in that position, I don't want them to take. So I may just say, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say, and that may get me in trouble. I don't know. That may be an easy way out, but I don't see any authority for lying about that in order to win a battle. I don't see that in God's word, and that's why I'm answering it about hurt, because this is used for that, and that becomes an important thing to discuss.
The irony of verse 9 is, she says, I know that your holy has given me this land. There's a whole generation that died in the wilderness that wouldn't make that statement.
Yeah, I know it. That's they did a lot of wondering because they couldn't make it. That's good. Okay. Question number 12. What did she request of the two spies, and how would it be carried out? So what did she request? Save her family. And she, father, mother, brothers, sisters, and everything that belongs to them. Now, what is interesting how it's carried out is kind of interesting, that the fact that here's the window that she's going to let them out. There'll be a scarlet line or a scarlet cord that would be given in the same window that she let them out. So she let them down by what? How were they let down? An elevator? A twisted cord, that's called a rope, isn't it? It wasn't a scarlet line. It's a twisted rope. That's what she let them down with. But what they said, that here is what we're going to do. You put that scarlet line in your window from whence we were let down. Not the cord, is the same thing. They're two different Hebrew words. So you got a scarlet line and you got a rope that they went down. And then they put the scarlet line in the window. And that's how she's going to say you get all of your family in there. What happens if one of the kids wants to make a run for it during the battle and they get out in the streets and her mother goes after her? What's going to happen then? That they broke their oaths because they got killed in the battle? If they get out of the house, blood's on who? Them. On their own. And it also shows the importance of oaths. Did they sign a piece of paper and get it notarized so they get this oath down real well? I promise to do this. I promise to do that. Did they write down, and who got a notary here? Oh, you, for this time? Yeah, fit that one in there. Nah, we got it legal. What do they do? It's verbal. And they fought back and forth on it. It's just interesting to me, how serious did they take the promise of their mouth? Very serious. We should do that too. We can make an agreement, make a handshake, and that's enough for me. Not in our world, because I won't get all the paperwork, it'll be 11 pages, but we're going to make sure that I can sue you now. But it shall be whosoever shall go out. First of all, verse 17. And the men said unto her, we will be guiltless of this thine oath, which thou hast made us to swear. We're swearing an oath, you're going to be saved. And everybody in your family, we've got a little condition, because we got to control the battlefront. You stay in your room. Everybody stays in there. Stay in your house. And that's what's going to take place. Now, we're not going to be guilty. We're going to fulfill our part of this oath, this promise. Behold, when you come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window, which you let us down by, and thou shalt gather unto thee the house of thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and thy father's household. And whosoever should go out, it's going to be blood upon them. Verse 20, but if thou utter this our business that we're doing, and we shall be guiltless of that oath which thou hast made us to swear. We won't be breaching the oath. If you tell it on us. So we got our conditions. You got your conditions. We're meeting together. And she said, according to unto your words, so is it. And she sent them away, and they departed. And she bound the scarlet line. There's your scarlet line, not a rope, a scarlet line in the window. Scarlet, red. We got red light district. That probably didn't make much difference. That's going to help till we get to the time of the battle. But the window on the wall in her house, that's where they're going to have to be. They're going to be saved. And so there were conditions, and it was confirmed by oaths. I swear. Oh, you shouldn't swear. We swear by God. Jeremiah speaks about God's people when they come back from captivity. We want them to swear by God. We want them to make those oaths as they're before God. And we're in our New Testament, let your yea be yea. It's going to be, I make a promise, my word is going to be true, because I know God's a witness of that. So I don't have to go through, well, you swear by this, and you get by with it over here and you don't over there. That was the problem with the Jews in Jesus' day. But we're going to tell the truth. And it's just kind of refreshing to realize there were things, conditions there. We're not going to be guilty if this happens and all that. And they agreed on that, and it came out that way. The house was saved. Her family was saved. I'm sure they stayed where they're supposed to stay. And they fulfilled their oaths. And we want to make sure that, I think, we always fulfill our oaths as well. Any comments about how it was all carried out? And so we'll continue. Question number 13. Upon escaping Jericho, the two spies went directly to report to Joshua. Is that true or is that false? It's false, isn't it? It'll be 3 days. Okay, and they went out and came to the mountain and abode there 3 days until the pursuers were returned, and the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, and they found them not. So they looked for them real intently, but they never found them. Then when the heat's done, these two men returned and descended from the mountain, and they passed over. I wonder what they passed over. The Jordan River, and came to Joshua, the son of Nun, and they told him all that had befallen them. Where are they? They're in Shittim. They're in that Moab land, and the spies are coming back home. And they said unto Joshua, truly Jehovah hath delivered into our hands all the land. Wow, what a statement. Because they now know what are the heart of the enemy that we're going to battle. And moreover, all the inhabitants of the land do melt away before us. All the men, their hearts are melting. Rahab was one of them. And therefore, she's got her deal where she's going to be saved. But here's it melt away. Surely Jehovah's given us all the land. This is how they're going to feel. And before this, the Amorites on the eastern side, they've been destroyed by Israel. They've been coming out of Egyptian bondage through the Red Sea. There was power behind that, and the leaders were very bothered by that. And they should be, because here come the Israelites. Any questions or comments about what's leading up to chapter 3, the latter part of lesson 1? Okay. Number 14. What was to be the sign for the people from their place to go toward the Jordan River? So they're in Shittim. They're going to be going toward the Jordan River. What was going to be the sign for their people to come? It's kind of the Ark of the Covenant, or we're talking about that. And it's kind of interesting that the Ark of the Covenant was a sign that God's presence is there. It's as if the Lord is standing in the Jordan River before it's all over. The Lord's there. And because the priests are holding the Ark of the Covenant and they're standing in the Jordan River. And that's the Lord's presence. That's why it was taken into battle a lot. as we look at Joshua and Judges, because that was the presence of God. But as we learn with Eli's sons and so forth, you better be holy when you're representing God, because sometimes the Ark of the Covenant is going to be stolen by the Philistines. And the two guys that are the two sons of Eli are going to be killed. And that's what happens. He was a holy God, but his presence was there. These are my people. And that was going to be a sign for the people. Now it's time to go. And where are we going? We're going to the Jordan River. We're going to the Jordan River. We're going to pass over the Jordan River, and we're going to take Jericho. Spies have already said it's for the taking, and that becomes important. So they were to be going, and he says, how far behind will they be when they start going? Behind the Ark of the Covenant. Verse 4. Yet there shall be a space between you and it about 2,000 cubits. You go from 18 inches, up to your finger, to the elbow, 21 inches sometimes people have said. But you multiply that out, that's over a half a mile apart. Is that showing God's holiness? And here's the one that's out there, but you're a half a mile apart, because you've never been this way before, he says. And that's going to lead you, God's presence is going to lead you away. But you be a half a mile separated from the Ark of the Covenant. Holy, holy, holy. And here we are. Can you see a half mile away? We got GPS now. I know when it's a half a mile. I think it's that's about 5 street lights down here. I'll be a half a mile. But GPS says so. So I know I can see a quarter mile. And in the distance, you may lose sight of that, but that's the direction they're going, and they're going toward the Jordan River, and they were to keep that space. They were to do that. You just go into detail about that, but come not near unto that you may know the way. That way it's going to be testing out that way, that you may know the way of which you must go, for ye have not passed this way hitherfore. You haven't been here before. And therefore, they're going to lead you. But you're staying, that's a long way. You do the math. And that was the Ark of the Covenant, God's presence. That was leading them. That becomes important. What was to be the sign that God was with his people in possessing the land? In verse 8, verse 7, because God's doing something with Joshua too before the people. I'm going to magnify thou in the sight of all Israel, that you may know that as I was with Moses, I'll be with thee. So I'm going to magnify you. You're going to be exalted and enlarged before the people, because things are connected with this sign. And he says, and you shall stand still in the Jordan. And Joshua said unto them, so verse 8 says, thou shalt command the priests that bear the Ark of the Covenant, saying, when you are come to the brink of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. As you come to the brink, something's going to happen. Joshua said unto the children of Israel, come hither and hear the words of Jehovah your God. And Joshua said, hereby ye shall know that the living God is among you. That's what we're looking for. And that he will without fail drive out before you the 7 nations, 7 different tribes, 7 different distinct peoples: Canaanite, the Hittite, the Hivite, the Perizzite, the Girgashite, and the Amorite, and the Jebusite. And they will behold the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of all the earth passeth over before you in the Jordan. That's how you will know that indeed that's the sign. I am with you. Wow, his presence is there. His presence is there. And they would understand that. He'll be guiding them where they're going to go across the Jordan River, but it also will be that which says God's with you. And if God's with you, that's the point. He's promised them this land, and that's where it's going to go. Now, here comes the sign, or what is we're going to talk about that, but it really shows you that indeed here's what's going to happen, how Joshua is going to be magnified, because there's going to be something we might call a miracle. And we'll discuss that. But what's going to happen where they're going to be passing over the Jordan. What's going to happen to the waters? How are they going to get across there? Is he going to divide the river? And he's going to divide it as you go across? Well, it's going to be divided. But just how does that work? You know, water will be heaped up, and where will it be heaped up at? The city of what? Adam. The city of Adam. Where is that? Well, people have some discrepancy trying to find Zarephath and Adam, the city of Adam. But what we begin to realize, it's about 16 to 22 miles from where they're going to be passing over into the area of Jericho, the head of the Red Sea. Some say about 14 miles. The waters are going to be heaped up in the city of Adam, way above where they're going to pass over the river. And it's going to be heaped up with the waters that flow into the Dead Sea. So you got a lot of places where it's heaped up here, and then they're not going to heap up there. The waters are going to be going in the Red Sea, but it's going to allow the dry land to be there. But the waters have heaped up here where you can get across. And it's going to be dry enough where they're going to be doing that. Now, there are a lot of people to pass over. They're to do it hastily. And it wasn't until after everybody had gotten across that God commands the high priest to come out of the river with the Ark of the Covenant. And that's going to be the point. That sounds kind of miraculous to me. But I've read 1927, there were men that can recount this, and it's a historical fact that there, in that particular area, there was an earthquake. And in this earthquake, it dislodged a lot of dirt and silt, and it blocked the Jordan River. And there were eyewitnesses that saw when that happened, the cattle could get across and the sheep could get across the Jordan River, because it was for hours that water was dammed up by an earthquake. And then when it finally weakened, the waters came back down again. Now, you say, well, does that mean it destroys the idea of a miracle? That's the question I ask you. And what kind of miracle? We say miracles transcends natural order. Earthquake comes and it as one says, soil disruption. It can do that, can it? Soil disruption. Seismic disruption is kind of what it is, but it's soil disruptions. You want to put it minor. But that happens. So when we talk about miracles, we sometimes realize, well, wonder if that's the way this happened. Didn't say it did. But in 1927, some say that it did. And that was a sign of God. That indeed, that means you can have confidence that God used an earthquake to do the Jordan River. It doesn't say that. But how do we look at in Philippi? What happened the night that Philippian jailer was going to be directed to become a Christian? What happened to that jail cell in Philippi? What occurred? An earthquake. An earthquake. And was that miraculous? Sometimes the timing of God's providential care of his people, following it providentially, he's going to be bringing something in. The miraculous part is the timing of it. So let's say it was an earthquake. It's the timing of that would, if that disrupted that, but we don't have any indication of that. He doesn't go into detail about that. He says the waters were heaped up and he gave the city. Now there's disagreement just about where that city was found, but it's up the Jordan River. It's quite a space where it can allow thousands and thousands of people to come across at one time. They could be coming across. Or it could be a limited time. We're going to see some more things that are placed there to show this is where we went. But they were able to, below there, the water is going to be descending anyway. So they would have a lot of space to go across with all of its people and to do it hastily. But I think miraculous part sometimes is timing. That indeed the timing of it shows that God's there. We might call it's providential timing is there. But the Red Sea parting, we had no problem. That just doesn't happen. Well, this doesn't happen either, but God's power. So just because they say it's an earthquake doesn't mean that it wouldn't be miraculous because of the timing. And we might call that God's miraculous providential actions, so forth. Not miraculous, but it's providential action, the timing of it becomes important. Because God can be working through natural order of things, and things just happen. The president can turn his head just a fraction of a moment, and the assassin's bullet goes through his ear, not his brain. Just all of a sudden it could happen. The earthquake happens, all of a sudden the sail is open where you got to go, and of course they don't go. How did that happen? All those things. And here's the part where it was just the waters were heaped up miles away, and they were able to pass over on dry land. I don't see any earthquake being told, and for people to try to prove the Bible by something that's not said there, to me is foolish. But I think there's indications that would be miraculous. How do you look at it? The waters were heaped up 14, 16, 22 miles upstream, where they could be on dry land eventually and go across Jordan River. Anything you want to add to that? That's, to me, is a miracle taken place. Joshua's magnified. He's going standing out there and commanding the people what to do. And they're going to have a memorial. I know our time is short. They're going to take 12 stones out of that riverbed. And it's one man from every tribe. We'll talk more about that. How were they to carry it? You know, I'll tell you what, I got a back brace here, and I'm going to take that big old stone, I'm going to carry it this way. How were they to carry it? On their shoulder. That's how they're to carry it. I don't know how big that was or anything like that, but there were stones, 12, one from each tribe, and the men there, they would place it where God said it's going to be placed, and they would be placing it that night in Gilgal, which is about 8 miles between Jericho and this city of Adam. That's where they will place them. They'll also take 12 stones and put it at the area where they crossed the Jordan River. And when all of that was done, and the Ark of the Covenant came out of that, when their toe hit the river, that's where the water is going to heap up. And when they came up out of that, the Ark of the Covenant gets out at last. We'll find that the waters came back and they just trickled down into the Dead Sea, right? When they crossed the Jordan River, what stage of the year was it? What was happening to that Jordan River? Just like our rivers go and come and go. Was it flood season? Bible says so. It flooded. They went across that Jordan River at its flood. You don't think God pays attention? You're going to realize this is me in charge of what's happening here. And when the waters return, they come back to the level of flood. It's like it never happened, but there's 12 stones in that river. And that represents the people came over here. And now we're setting up those 12 stones about a memorial to remember in the years ahead what God had done. And Joshua is exalted among his people. They're going to have trust in him. God's deed behind him. The Ark of the Covenant was that leading them to the Jordan River, protecting them, being his presence, allowed them to go over. And God is indeed with them. And it's a sign that indeed you're going to get the land. That's kind of where we're going to have to leave it tonight, or until next time. Anything you would like to add to that as we get in lesson 2? And we'll talk about that next time. Okay, thank you.